right, for this project, we're just going to need a couple of supplies. We're going to use a 5mm crochet hook. We're going to need our darning needle. That's to weave in any of our ends. We'll need a pair of scissors. And we're going to need some yarn. I am using this Lion brand Mandala Ombre. They're a number 4 weight acrylic yarn. All right, to begin this pattern, we're going to start off with creating a magic ring. And then from here, what we want to do is start it. And we want to chain 3. And then we want to put 11 double crochets into the magic ring. So yarn over, go into the loop, circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through your last 2 loops. So we want to have 11 of those created. All right, and then once you have your 11 double crochets made, we're going to take the tail of our magic ring and pull it closed. And then what we want to do is slip stitch into your 3rd chain of your first chain 3 of our round in order to join. And there we are. That is row 1. All right, and now from here, what we're going to do is chain 2. And then into this space right between these double crochets on our first row, we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through your first 2 loops. Yarn over, go into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through your first 2 loops. So now we have 3 loops on our hook, and then go through all 3 loops, and then chain 1. Then into the space between our next 2 stitches, we yarn over, go into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through your first 2 loops. Yarn over, go into the same space, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through your first 2 loops. Yarn over, go into the same space, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through your first 2 loops. So now we have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, go through all 4 loops, and then chain 1. Then we want to repeat this. Essentially it's double crochet 3 together, and then chain 1 into the space between each one of our double crochets of the first row. So all together, this is our first, we did 2 together, so we need a total of 12. All right, now that we're back at the beginning, what we want to do here is we're going to slip stitch into this stitch right here at the very top. So it'd be the stitch joining all 3 of those together. We had our chain 2 and then the 2 double crochet together into the 1 stitch. So we're going to slip stitch right into there. And there we have round 2. And now for round 3, what we're going to do is chain 3. This 3 chains here counts as a double crochet for this round. And then we want to chain 1. And then what we're going to do is double crochet into that same space where we came out of. So as you can see, it's between clusters here on the previous row. And then we're going to, from here, double crochet into the next space between the clusters, chain 1, and then double crochet into that same space between. And then we just want to repeat that, double crochet into the space between the clusters of the previous row, chain 1. So essentially it's into that chain 1 space in between, and then chain 1 and double crochet again into it. And we want to repeat that all the way around to the very beginning. All right, now that we're back at the beginning, what we want to do is slip stitch into the 3rd chain of our first chain 4 of the round in order to join. So then that kind of pulls it out so you see that chain 1 in between. And there we are, that is round 3. For round 4, what we're going to do is chain 2. And then what we want to do is double crochet 4 together into that same space right between those little V's, if you look. So into this space right into here, we want to double crochet 4 together. So it's just yarn over, pull through the loop, pull up a loop, but only go through your first 2. All right. So once you get your 4, there should be 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 5 hooks. And then chain 1. And then into the chain 1. So we're in the middle of the V here. What we're going to do is double crochet 5 together. All right, so this one has 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over and go through all 6 loops and then chain 1. So going all the way around, we want to double crochet 5 together into, we want to go between the V's and then in the middle of the V's all the way around. So in here, 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 all the way around for the entire round. All right, and now at the end, what we're going to do is we want to slip stitch into, so if we count up at the end, we have 1, 2 chains. So this is the 3rd stitch, which is a stitch actually that ties together our first cluster at the very top. And we want to slip stitch right into there. And there we are, it is round 4. All right, and now for round 5, what we're going to do is we're going to be working into the chain 1 spaces between our clusters here. So first what we want to do is, because we're going to work in that first little area where we started, we're going to chain 3, then we're going to double crochet into the space right here. And then we're going to double crochet again into that same space. All right, so our first chain 3 counted as a double crochet stitch, and then we did 2 more double crochets. So into the space between our next clusters here, we want to put 3 double crochets. And then we just want to put 3 double crochets into the space between each one of our clusters, going all the way around. All right, and now that we're at the end, what we're going to want to do is slip stitch into our third chain of our first chain 3 of our round in order to join. And there we are, and that is round 5. All right, and now for round 6, what we're going to do is from here, we're going to chain 2, then we're going to double crochet into the top of the stitch for the cluster in the row below, and then chain 2, and then double crochet into that stitch for that cluster, and we're just going to repeat this going all the way around. All right, and then from here, we're just going to slip stitch. Whoop. From here, we're going to slip stitch into that first chain of our chain 2 of our round in order to join. So there we are with that row. So as you can see, it just creates like these little loops around the outside there. All right, and now from here, what we're going to do is into that first chain 2 space, we want to put 5 double crochets. All right, and then onto the top of that double crochet from the previous row, we're going to slip stitch right into there. And then into our next chain 2 space, we want to put 5 more double crochets. And then slip stitch once again into that stitch that's the top of that double crochet from the previous row. Essentially what we're doing is a little shell stitch into the chain 2 spaces, and we want to repeat that all the way around. All right, and then we want to slip stitch onto the top of that last post of the double crochet from the chain before. And there we are. And that is the end of that row. All right, and now from here, this is where we start to make the mesh of the bag. What we want to do is slip stitch along this little shell that we did into the next 3 stitches. So that puts us right at the very top of that first shell. And then we're going to chain 5. Then we're going to slip stitch into the third double crochet of the next shell, so it's the very top. And then once again, just chain 5 and slip stitch into the third stitch of our next little shell or cluster of 5 double crochets into the chain space. And we're going to keep repeating that all the way around until we get to this one, this very last shell, and we'll go for more there. All right, now that we're here at the end, what we're going to do is chain 2. Then we're going to double crochet into that first space where we came out of. So that was the third double crochet of that shell stitch from the row below. And we just double crochet into there in order to join. And there is that row. All right, and for our next round, from here what we're going to do is chain 7. And then we're going to slip stitch into this the third chain of our chain 5 space. And then we're going to chain 7. And slip stitch once again into that third chain of the chain 5 space, and we're going to repeat that all the way around until this last little space. All right, now that we're here at the end, what we're going to want to do is chain 3, and then into the top of this double crochet stitch, we want to treble crochet into there. So we yarn over twice, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, yarn over, go through your next 2 loops, yarn over, and go through your last 2 loops. And there we are. That is the end of that round. All right, now this round is the round that's going to get repeated numerous times until we achieve the depth of the bag that we want. So we chain 7. And then we're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain of the previous row's chain 7. So what we did is just made another little loop, then chain 7, and then slip stitch into the 4th chain. And we just repeat that all the way around until we're onto the last loop before we join. All right, now that we're here at the beginning, we're just going to chain 3 and then into the top of the previous row's treble crochet, we're just going to treble crochet right into there again. All right, and then you're just going to keep repeating that row over and over until you get the depth of the bag that you want. Now remember, you're also, it's going to look funny as we're going around, just like a blah kind of look. But as we add more and more rows on, make sure to kind of pull up along the side here, and that'll actually show you, because the bag's going to actually stretch whenever we put something into it. It's going to actually show you how deep it really goes. And I'll meet you right back as soon as I get to the next step. All right, so I went ahead and I repeated this 16 times for the depth of bag that I wanted, which I was quite happy with that size. You can repeat it more or less. Doing less repeats gives you a shallower bag, more gives you a deeper bag. But for now we want to do the top ends of the bag. So from where we stopped, we want to chain 4. And then we're going to find that 4th chain of our next little loop, and we're just going to slip stitch right into there. And then we're just going to repeat that, chain 4, and then slip stitch into the 4th chain from the next loop, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. All right, and now that we're back at the beginning, we're going to slip stitch right into that first stitch where we joined the top of that last treble crochet from the previous row. And there we are for that row. And now for our next row, we're going to start and chain 3. And then we're going to, into each stitch across, so we have our 4 chains, we're going to double crochet into each of the next 4 chains. And then, now that we're at that slip stitch where we slip stitched, into that slip stitch, we're going to go ahead and double crochet there also. So we're just going to keep repeating this all the way around into each chain, so 4 chains in between each little cluster from previous rows. We're going to double crochet into those, and then 1 into the where we slip stitch. So each little section there'll be 5 chains, so we should have a total of 119 double crochets made, plus our chain 3, which will be 120. All right, now that we're at the end, what we're going to do is slip stitch into our 3rd chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join. And there we are, we have our top row for our bag. All right, and now for the last step that we need to do is make the strap. I prefer, I'm going to show you a different style for a strap. I really like these because then it's much more forgiving on your shoulder, especially if you pack it full of a bunch of stuff. And this is specifically for like a market bag. So, you know, picking up produce and whatnot at your farmer's market or out of your garden. So I think it's going to be a lot better to do it this way. So what we're going to do is chain 3. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 9 stitches. All right, and then chain 3 and turn our work. And then skip your first stitch and double crochet into the next 9 stitches. And your last stitch will be that 3rd chain of that first chain 3 of the round. And then you simply chain 3, turn, and then double crochet 9 times across. And you just keep repeating that until you have the length of strap that you wish. So I've gone ahead and did 28 total rows for the strap. And now that I'm at the end, what I'm going to do is simply tie off, but I'm going to leave an extra long tail. And then what we're going to want to do is look at our strap, make sure it's not twisted. And the end, which would be this side, is going to match up to this side here, because that's where the tail is. We're going to sew it on to the lip of the bag. So we count over 50 stitches from this side, and we count over 50 stitches along, and I place my marker in stitch number 50. So we're going to take the end of our long tail, thread it into our darning needle, and then we're simply going to attach and sew the strap right into and match stitch per stitch, going down to match up the strap to the other side of the bag. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and go back across into all those same stitches just to try and essentially make it a stronger stitch together. I don't want it to end up accidentally coming apart or anything while I'm utilizing my bag. All right, and then we'll just tie off that piece of yarn and then weave in the ends. And there we are. We have our lovely mesh market bag. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and give it a little thumbs up And let me know in the comments section, you know, even if it's just a little thumbs up in the comments. Any little thing is a great help for me. And also, if you're not subscribed yet, you know, it's a perfect time to go ahead and hit that little subscribe button and then that little notification bell next to it. And it'll give you a heads up whenever I post a new pattern. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.